The Royale Guards versus the Disaster Curses. UPN, Pitou and Poof against Hanami and Jogo and Dagon. Meruem Glazers versus Mahito Glazers. This matchup is actually very close and not close at the same time. You see, we will not be including Mahito in this matchup to make it a 3v3 team fight. Both groups will be using their best coordinations and sync their abilities, and thus we conclude who will come up on top based on that, so stick to the end to find out. Also, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, it means everything to me and would motivate me to keep going. Thank you so much. So when we scale in the Royale Guards in terms of attack potency, we can use UP's Raging Blast that was calced to large town level. Considering all the Royale Guards are relative to each other, with Pitou being the strongest of them all, it's safe to say they cap at large town level. Speed, however, is a different story in HUNTERXHUNTER. There are two lines of speed scaling, one that relies on Netero before reaching his prime, breaking the sound barrier without Nen, which puts characters relative to him performing at high hypersonic speed plus. But then again, many characters below Netero were breaking the sound barrier like it's nothing, which brings us to the second line of speed, that is Pitou being massively hypersonic by traveling and blitzing Kite before Gon and Killua even notice, which was calced to Mach 105. Later on, she slightly outspeed Kamuro Killua, although this feat is debatable since in the panel, the distance between Pitou and Gon was very little compared in the anime where they shown a pretty large gap between them. So it's up to debate. However, Netero's 1000 slaps in under a minute were calced to Mach 398. So although Netero is faster, Pitou capping at massively hypersonic is consistent in my opinion since she could perceive Netero's hands coming, and for the sake of this matchup we will put the rest of the guards in relative state to Pitou, with her being the strongest and the fastest of them all. I would also like to go through their hacks and abilities before we wrap it up, starting with Pitou, who possesses extraordinary healing through Dr. Blythe and puppet control with Terpishikura, which makes Pitou's combat skills and reflexes to be unmatched. Moving on to UP, who can transform and generate massive explosive power using Rage Blast, accompanied with his incredible raw strength. Lastly, Poof, who can split into clones with spiritual message, which allows wide range of information gathering and manipulation. Without mentioning, they all possess the basic abilities of Nen such as Ten, Zetsu, and Ren and Hatsu. These principles serve as the basis of Nen techniques, enabling both offense and defense while allowing the users to create abilities that are distinctive and personalized. With that out of the way, do you really think Team Meruem can take this? Stick around and find out. When we scaling the disaster curses in terms of AP, we will not be scaling them based on the creation feats. That is straight up ambiguous if you ask me. So if we consider the fact that in order to defeat a special great curse you need a multiple culpriting explosive, which will cover multiple football feats in terms of explosiveness, then scaling the disaster curses to multi-city blocks and likely higher is not far from the truth. However, Jogo is a special case here. His AP should be around small city level due to his maximum meteor that could even damage the likes of 15 Finger Sukuna, who caps at city level of AP. But his durability doesn't pair up with his destructive capacity in my opinion, which makes him the strongest and the carry of his team. Moving on to speed, if we take Shibuya Yuji's feat, that is dodging piercing blood that moves at max speed, also other characters breaking the sound barrier like Maki catching bullets, Jogo and Dagon keeping up and outclassing Naobito that was hailed as the fastest sorcerer, with Jogo being the strongest and the fastest after he blitzed everyone from Maki to Nanami to Naobito alone. However, in this matchup, speed does not matter as much as hacks and abilities. You see, before we conclude this, we have to understand each of their techniques, with Jogo's abilities given that he wields devastating fire-based techniques and a domain expansion which is called the Iron Coffin Mountain, granting all his fire-based techniques a sure hit effect on anyone trapped. Hanami possesses plant-based techniques that control nature, absorb life energy, which can be used in both offense and defense. Lastly, Dagon, who can summon aquatic creatures and manipulate water in his domain, which is called the Horizon of the Captivating Skanda, where everyone gets trapped in an island domain, and locating him will be really hard while dealing with all the aquatic creatures. Lastly but not least, all of them can regenerate limbs easily, even from being beheaded. As long as they don't run out of energy, they can regenerate. With that being said, do they really stand a chance against the overwhelming Royale Guards? Let's find out. Now, right off the bat, the Royale Guards likely dominate in physical combat due to their overwhelming speed and strength. UP, for instance, could overpower most of the curses in a raw power, given his AoE range attacks. However, the tides can shift if they are trapped in a domain expansion. You see, both teams have perfect sync with each other. UP and Pitou are perfect offense between multiple to a single target attacks, while Poof is great for deception and slowing down the enemies. Same goes for the disaster curses. Dagon and Hanami have perfect crouch control abilities using trees and aquatic creatures, while Jogo is the heavy hitter. So the Royal Guards win if they close the gap quickly and avoid the traps of domain expansion. Their raw power and durability are difficult to match. Even if the other party possesses super regeneration, it won't mean much if they get squashed every turn. However, it can buy them time to perform a domain expansion. Now the question here, which one would be the most efficient domain, Dagon's or Jogo's? Dagon's domain cannot do any significant damage given the Royal Guard's supremacy in terms of physicality. However, the sure hit effect and Hanami's assist will at least slow them down enough and control them so they don't escape the follow-up attack from Jogo, that is Maximum Meteor, considering he is the only one who can actually damage the Royal Guards big time. Even if they can use N to locate them in Dagon's island, it will be really hard to act with the crowd control and the sure hit effects. Same can be said about Jogo's domain. If it can produce enough energy like his maximum ability, which is possible since it's not a maximum output ability, with both Dagon and Hanami assisting him, then he for sure can land a maximum meteor and end this fight. If the Royal Guards can catch on without being thrown off by the domain and the sure hit abilities, they can split up and try to hunt Dagon and Hanami, and thus Jogo can't focus all three at once. He will have to hit only one target at a time. By the time he finishes one of them, the rest of his support will be done for, thus granting victory to the Royal Guards. That is actually if they can do it without being slowed by neither Jogo's or Dagon's domain abilities, which can prove very difficult in this situation since they have no information about how domain work. Which brings us to the next point, that is, if the fight prolongs in the domain, the more chances the Royal Guards have, since they can adapt and deduce the right strategy with their high battle IQ and experience. Since the key factor for the win here is intelligence and experience, so it can go either way. The Royal Guards might edge out slightly due to their immense durability and speed, but in my opinion, the favorite here are the disaster curses, since they can exploit their broken abilities better. They have a significant edge in technique-based combat, especially with domain expansion in my humble opinion. But still, who do you think is the better team? As they end this one here, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot to me. I see you in the next one. Stay safe out there and peace.